Mere Conservatism.
And welcome to another edition of Mere Conservatism. David Perry, I'm Cleve Walker. And David, I don't know what it is, but it always seems to happen that there's some news event that's supposed to break, and it always happens before we get a chance to talk about it after it's broken. And
yeah, we really need to talk to the powers that be.
Make
sure that break news on Wednesday, so that we can make sure that we get it on the program. You know, I am feeling, looking at the news cycle and everything that's happening, I'm just feeling very worn out by the news cycle, and especially by the left and the games that they play.
And the fact that they do it continually. It's like there's no let up.
The latest thing that's really getting to me, Cleve, and to be honest, to be fair, maybe I'm in a little bit of a funk anyway, so maybe just a lot of things are getting to me. But Liz Cheney this week lost her election. It's a primary, and she got smoked.
Yeah.
She got like less than 30% of the vote. Mm-hmm. And by the way, a lot of those votes were Democrats, because a lot of Democrats were crossing over.
She asked them to.
Yes.
Okay.
So she lost. The message from the media on the left, same thing, was a threat to democracy.
Yes.
This is a blow to democracy.
It was another example of the gangster. Trump,
and I just
leading his cabal.
Yeah, and I'm just really tired of the word democracy coming from the left. I'm really, really tired of it.
Yeah,
it's so tiresome, because when people vote for something that they don't like, it's a threat to democracy. It makes no sense. This was an election, democracy at work. This actually was democracy.
That's
the people
of
Wyoming did not want Liz Cheney. That is democracy.
Obviously.
They decry it as a threat to democracy and an attack on democracy. And I'm just, because first of all, democracy, it's not one of my highest values. I'm a conservative. We live in a constitutional republic.
Right.
Democracies are overrated. Okay? Majority rule is not how we run our country, nor do we want it to be. So democracy is not my highest value, but they act like it is theirs, especially ever since this most recent presidential election. They act like democracy is their highest value, yet they don't actually respect votes when they don't go their way.
Right.
What they mean when they say democracy is their oligarchy.
Right.
They want to be in charge. Everything they don't like is a threat to democracy, but they just keep on saying this over and over again. I'm so tired of the gaslighting.
The reason why we don't have a pure, quote-unquote, democracy in this nation and have a republic is because democracy, as they understand it, can always end up in mob rule.
Yeah, it always does.
And that's what they want. And so that's the democracy they're crying out for, the mob.
They want what they want,
yeah. Which
means if the people give them what they want, then good. They like democracy.
Then it's good.
If the people don't give them what they want, then they don't like democracy. This is what people need to understand, is that if America was a democracy, really, we never would have gotten rid of slavery. Do you understand?
That's a good point.
That 50% plus one vote wins, and that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing for minorities and minority rights. And as conservatives, we understand and we know, we believe the smallest minority is the individual. We do believe in individual rights, and that may not even be our highest value, but we realize how important individual rights are, and they don't. They are a mob.
Exactly. Mob rule in every way. Now, maybe this will make you feel better and get you out of your funk as far as former Representative Cheney is concerned. I mean, she's still in office, but she'll be out soon. After her overwhelming defeat you just talked about, reports are that she got a phone call from President Biden. I'm sorry.
Oh, my goodness.
And by the way, she was beaten by 37 points. But
that's a lot.
Biden called her, and the details of their conversation are not known. But it is widely suspected that he may be encouraging, because a lot of folks are, Cheney to run for president in 2024 to primary whoever, is on.
I think she will.
Yeah, so my point being is, for them, it works still this, because not that she can get a whole lot of votes, but if they can get her to primary, somebody else to primary, and somebody else to throw in the hat to primary, their whole idea is to whoever is the eventual nominee will be somewhat weakened and savaged. So either way, her running, though it was a lost cause, served the purposes of the Democrat Party.
I think she will run, and she's going to be propped up by the media, which is the only reason she'll get any attention whatsoever, because I'm telling you, nobody wants her.
Yeah.
And it's not because she refused to kiss the ring of Donald Trump. That is not why people don't want her, because there are a lot of candidates. There are a lot of politicians that have not kissed the ring of Donald Trump.
For sure.
You have a candidate in Georgia for governor named Brian Kemp, who did not kiss the ring. Kemp just did a good job as governor, as a Republican governor, as a conservative in the state, and he won his primary overwhelmingly.
So Liz Cheney...
And my point is that it's not because Liz Cheney refused to go along with what she calls the lie of January 6th or whatever it is she calls it. It's not because of that. She could have kept her mouth shut about the election integrity and stuff like that. She could have even said, no, I think the election was legit and we shouldn't go down this road. In fact, she did that at first. In January, she was saying that, and she kept her leadership position in the Republican Party. You remember that? In fact, we didn't even like that she kept it. But she did. She kept her position for a long time. No, the reason she lost her position with the Republicans and voters rejected her is because she became the weapon. She allowed herself to be used by the Democrats to be a weapon against not just Trump.
Right.
And I don't know why she doesn't see this, but the weapon is being used against all of us that didn't support Joe Biden, that want to vote Republican, that want to vote conservative. She is the weapon being used by the Democrats against us. That's why she got rejected. And it bugs me that she doesn't see that, because she has a conservative voting record and all that stuff.
Who says she doesn't see it? Okay.
Well, maybe you're right.
I mean, I think it's a political decision. She believes that Trump will end up being so demonized and so eventually hated, and that the ongoing vilification of the Democrats will work. So she's trying to put herself on the right side of that equation based upon a political posture. In other words, I was one of the few Republicans who stood against this righteous fight against the Orange Man. Well, and that's going to help her in her mind.
And she thinks... maybe she doesn't. I don't know what she thinks.
Okay.
So forgive me for saying that. But she wants to act like she's just doing the right thing for the country by going against Donald Trump. And I want to scream at her, no, you're going after us.
Yeah.
You are. And it's not because we are so aligned with Trump. That's not why you're going after us. The reason you're going after us is because look at what the Democrats are doing. They're equating everybody to the right of Hillary Clinton with the January 6th rioters. That is what this whole thing is about. Everybody, all of us who didn't support Joe Biden. And what if we thought the election had some shenanigans and there were a lot of things that went down that shouldn't have gone down during the election, which seems pretty obvious? Well, we are all implicit in insurrection. So she is actually attacking us in that way.
Well, the thing is this, and she's a great lesson to me for all of us, and the reason why I have trouble with Republicans who, again, we're not asking Republicans to be in love with Donald Trump or even to think he's great. Okay, maybe they don't like him, all right? But if you can attack Trump as the main problem in the face of what Biden and the Democrats are doing now, I mean, they're literally, as you well know, of course, destroying our nation. So if your focus can be on anything other than that as a Republican, if Donald Trump's presence does not equate to a destroyed border, a destroyed military, the weaponization of federal agencies against the American people, if he's the one that's important, then you've shown yourself for your true colors. You're not up for the nation as a whole. America is not what matters. Your position, your power is what matters.
She thinks, there I go again, her persona, and it just frustrates me so bad that she's like this. The vibe she's putting out is that any opposition to her is because of zombie-like affection for Donald Trump.
Belonging to the
That's
cult.
not what is going on.
Yeah. That's what the media wants to paint as well.
It's so frustrating to see that. And she got beat soundly, and I'm glad she did.
The voters rejected her because of her policies and her posture.
That's what it seemed like.
Right. She's in it for herself. All right. Now, when I said it always seems like we're waiting for the big news to break before, just before we produce our podcast. At the time of this podcast, we don't know what has happened in that magistrate hearing in Florida, whether or not to make public the probable cause affidavit to justify the FBI's raid of former President Trump's house. So we don't really know what the outcome of that is. However, we're going to go ahead and speculate on it anyway, okay? My speculation is the magistrate's not going to open this thing up. He's not going to do it. He's not going to release the cause for the affidavit. Okay. What say you?
I agree with you.
An opinion. Now, why do you feel that way?
Because I don't think it's going to be good for the FBI and the Justice Department.
And not only that, but the way the Democrats operate is this. They never throw everything at all at one time. Their modus operandi in destroying a political opponent, if they feel like they have something, is drip, 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 drip. They want this thing to remain, quote unquote, a mystery, tell you the truth, so they can have leaks without any kind of, with any kind of background, and this come out at that time, and this come out. They need something leading up to the midterm.
And we can see that from everything they've tried to get him with. Russia collusion, Stormy Daniels, Ukraine phone call.
Drip.
It's drip, drip. You're right.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they want to do. And I don't think this is going to come out because I don't think that they have much. I really think that this has backfired on them. Or maybe they didn't think it through. I don't really know. But I don't think it has had the effect that they wanted it to have necessarily. It looks like it was a fishing expedition that they went under a pretext to get the documents, but they really wanted to see if they could find some other stuff. Because
for January 6th is what they're looking for.
For January 6th, because they took everything. I mean, they just took all kinds of stuff. Apparently,
he even had to return his passport.
It was weird. Yeah, it was strange that it seemed just get everything.
Yeah.
Because I really believe that they were just going there to see what they could find because they wanted to find something.
If they found a smoking gun, anything that really incriminates the president, they would not release that now. They need to release that at the most critical moment, which would be just before, the votes, at some point. I guess what I'm trying to say is their way of doing things is drip, drip, drip. Leave it up to the imagination of the public and the media to help you imagine it, and they get more mileage.
And the media will say everything, and they have said all. I mean, it's so irresponsible, but that's who they are. They are the propaganda wing of the Democrats.
But again, to our defense, if you're hearing this and it's already been decided whether the magistrate's going to release it or not, this we're producing before that happened, and so this is our best speculation. I'll be interested to see if how it turns out. I think you're right, though. That's what I feel.
The Inflation Reduction Act passed.
Yeah, that was the very next thing I was going to say.
Are you happy?
I believe it's going to reduce inflation tremendously.
Wow, you do. Okay, so the day that Biden signed it, all these stories started coming out. Have you noticed this in the media?
Yep.
It's like the day that he was going to sign the bill, everybody started. I highlighted the one from CBS News about how the Inflation Reduction Act actually doesn't really address inflation. Well, you don't say.
Well, what they are saying is this. No, it doesn't really kick in until like about 24, 25. That's when you'll see the possible inflation reducing aspect of it. It doesn't do it now. Anywhere close.
Yeah, well, that's what the apologists are saying, but the models are saying that it doesn't. It's just not going to do anything.
Which you already knew that.
We did already know that. The thing about this is that the media could have known this.
Yeah. Sure.
And they did know this.
Yes.
But they didn't say this because that wasn't going to help them pass the bill.
Yeah.
Because like we've already said, the media works for the Democrats. Yeah. Their job is to help the left accomplish their legislative and other goals that they have. And so they stuck with the idea that this was the Inflation Reduction Act. That's the name of it. Mm-hmm. And the obvious thing would have been to talk. What they're doing now is what they should have done before the bill was voted on. Of course. Because right now they're going out and they're asking Schumer and they're asking Biden, they're asking everybody, hey, this is actually not going to reduce inflation. Isn't that a problem? They're asking Manchin that. Yeah. They should have been asking him that before he decided to vote for it. But no, they don't do their jobs because they're carrying water for the left. And now we see that this was really just a spending bill.
And they're covering their own rear ends by saying, because as it becomes more obvious this doesn't work on the inflation, they will say, but see, we covered that. You know what I'm saying? We did our part.
Yeah, they covered it after it passed.
After the fact. But here's the thing behind that. Again, what the Democrats are doing, and they do this masterfully, they do this well. If I give them a compliment, it'll be along this line. They always are able to come up with some quote-unquote newsworthy headline to draw attention to everything but what they're really about doing. And, for example, even the raid, it's more, again, about sucking the oxygen out of any more attacks, stories about any more attacks of what Biden is doing or about the Inflation Reduction Act or anything, because your attention is over here where they want it to be. And so if for no other reason than that, I know that he's not going to open this thing up because it needs to be drawn out. They need attention getters. My goodness. And I understand now why you feel the way you do. Dave was talking earlier about how it just wears you out. And for me, I can feel that, but the reason it wears me out is not because of the lies themselves. That's not what really, because I expect that. I expect nothing less than that. What kind of wears me out is that I know there are so many people who are buying into it. That's what wears me out, that even at this date and time, when we have seen this president, this administration, and the Democrats lie and have their lies discovered time after time again, there's still a constituency out there that believes them. And that wears me out.
Yep. I talk to people who they think that what they do and what they spend their time thinking about when it comes to politics and our national situation here is what Donald Trump had in his closet at Mar-a-Lago.
Exactly.
They want to spend all their time talking about that he had nuclear secrets.
Yep.
Or he violated the Espionage Act, which is, I think, impossible for the president to do.
Right.
And yada, yada, yada. And I'm just like, you know, even if you believe that he had some stuff, you could not speculate. You could just wait for that information to come out and turn your attention to, you know, some pretty important things that are going on, like the disaster, our international policy, I should say, our foreign policy, and the state that Afghanistan is in 1 year later.
Right.
I read an article this week about that, about how there's Taliban is everywhere and the girls can't go to school and they're having to cover up and they're getting beaten, and this is exactly what we said would happen.
But they're drawing attention away from that, and I got a little story on that in just 1 second. And the reason it works for them is this. The Democrats, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, they are past masters at emotional diatribes and that work with the hot buttons. In other words, their whole thing is to get a person in their emotions, not in their mind, but in their emotions. And once you do that, as I told you before, logic and reasoning are out the door.
Well, in these days, Cleve, they engage in full-on doublespeak and gaslighting
for sure,
with the assistance of the media. And I think that's what gets me so bad, because it is so blatant and so out in the open, so in your face, and they get away with it because the media just parrots what they say.
Yeah.
They don't question. I mean, they don't. In a sane world, Cleve, there'd be so much pushback from newspapers and online reporters and people on TV and stuff like that, from all the stuff that is being said. They would be able to restore some order with this administration, but they can't. They won't.
Yeah.
Because they just say what they're supposed to say.
The purpose of journalism in the liberal mind is not to report the world, but to change it.
It's to form a narrative.
Yeah. Now, about Afghanistan, final tally came out, and it turns out the U.S. government left behind more than $7 billion in military equipment when it pulled out during that chaotic and deadly withdrawal. A Defense Department Inspector General report, David, explained that the majority of the $7 billion left behind in the country was made up of tactical ground vehicles like Humvees and other explosion-resistant vehicles. In addition to the ground vehicles, the military lost $923.3 million worth of military aircraft, $294 million in aircraft munitions, yada yada. I mean, they don't want to talk about that. So again, this comes out. This
$7 billion
think about
of stuff.
To our enemies, to those who are trying to kill us, to those who are trying to destroy us. We left it out, and then we left the country with our legs, tails tucked behind our legs, and just...
It's not a stretch, Cleve, to say that we just gave $7 billion of military equipment to Al-Qaeda.
No, that's not.
It's not a stretch
to say. Not at all.
Because who did they just killed the leader of Al-Qaeda in Kabul, just hanging out on his balcony because they have
living a good life.
Moved right back in and taken over that area. So what I guess what I'm trying to say is they're just 1 year later.
Everything they're doing, and it always works this way, is to draw distraction to attention away from reports like this that come out or anything else that happens. But the good thing is, again, Republicans are fighting back, at least our governors, in the right way, because this thing where we're busing hundreds of the immigrants to Washington, to New York, and places like that, it's working. All right, because now, like I said, you got the mayor of D.C. and the mayor of New York asking the federal government for help and saying that Abbott and Governor Abbott and people like that are doing terrible things, but it's the only way to bring some of the effect of the awful decisions of this president into focus. And even the media is having to cover it because their people are the ones complaining and talking about it. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, hey, we're overwhelmed, we're overrun, we need help, so that's I hate to say it because I don't think we should have to do that, but it's the kind of stuff, the actions Republicans are going to have to take. You're going to have to demand the attention and get it some way or the other.
We need bold action.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it from a few Republicans, and from some we're still seeing very timid action and not a lot going on. But we are seeing some bold action from some of our Republicans, and we need it right now badly.
One thing I'm a little bit skittish about is, and I hate to put him in this category, but even some of the things that former Vice President Mike Pence has been saying. He recently...
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
What am I talking about?
Yeah, you're talking about him saying that talking about defunding the FBI is just as bad as talking about defunding the police. And Mike Pence is just wrong about this.
Yeah.
He's just wrong. I think it comes from a good place.
Yeah.
I think he is missing the boat on this so badly.
Well, the reason he is, I'm afraid, and I don't know this again any more than you know exactly what Cheney was thinking, so I'm not trying to say I'm reading minds, but unfortunately I believe that Mr. Pence is planning to run for president, and I think he sees this as an opportunity to further distinguish his way of thinking and doing and tactics from Trump or any other Republican who runs.
Yeah, well, and Mike Pence, to his credit, and it's a good quality of his. He's very even keel. Mm-hmm. He's very calm. Mm-hmm. Not one to rash action judgment. Again, that's why he made a good vice president to Donald Trump.
Counterbalance, yeah.
And I think that's what's at play here. I mean, it's a false equivalence to compare the FBI and what's been going on with the FBI to police broadly. Yeah. We're talking about backing the blue, which, by the way, is not really even a phrase that I embrace that much. I support police officers, good ones, but not crooked ones.
Right.
And that's there. So there's two distinguishing features here. One is backing the blue or supporting police officers. Police are a local organization. Okay, they are county police, state police, but usually when you talk about the police, they are a county organization. Yeah. So you have every county in the country has their own police force, and so you can have good ones and you can have bad ones. but the FBI is a national one.
Right.
So you can't equate police. I'm not going to equate the Richmond County Police Department or the Columbia County Police Department in my area to the FBI. It's not close to the same thing.
Right.
Because one is local and one is national. The other difference is none of us support crooked cops. Right?
Right.
That's not what back the blue even means. That's not what supporting police officers means. The point that we're making is that the FBI is shady and that they're not doing a good job of being forthcoming and being honest and all that stuff. And again, broad brush, not every FBI agent is like that, I'm sure, but we're talking about broadly. The organization has some real problems, and there's plenty of evidence to support that. I mean, we go on and on over just going back the last 5 or 6 years.
Right. It's the leadership we're talking about. The rank and file, we wish there were some who would come with.
I'm sure there's some good ones and
but
some
the
bad
leadership is the problem.
And so when you're going to talk about the organization as a whole, that's what you're talking about.
Right, right.
And should we defund it? Probably, to some extent.
I think all the agencies should be downsized in the federal government, all of them. They'll be more efficient, and also maybe we could weed out people like the director of the FBI.
Yeah, a lot of people need to be retired.
Yeah. Well,
at the very least.
Again, we understand the fog everybody is feeling. We share it. The thing we cannot do, though, is let it work, because the idea is to wear you down. The idea is to paint a picture that the destiny that the Democrats plan is inescapable, and we must not give into that, at least not right now, David. David, folks can hear the conversation that we just had, hopefully, and be encouraged again by...
Yeah, make sure you go check out Apple Podcasts and search for Mere Conservatism. Subscribe. You can find it on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Stitcher, all those places.
And I'm Cleve Walker, who, along with David Perry, invite you to join us again for another edition of Mere Conservatism. And as always, keep the faith. It's not over with yet.